Hello and welcome back to Talking Wolves. My name is Matthew Cooper, and now you may have seen over the past few days that Wolves have released their accounts for the financial year, and it looks like they've turned a little bit of a profit, cumulatively a profit of £14 million. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the price of football's Kieran Maguire. Kieran, thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably heard, if you're a Talking Wolves follower, you've probably heard me cite the Price of Football podcast on numerous occasions. It's where I get most of my trusted source for football finance, and I am a massive fan of the podcast. So a little bit of a fanboy moment for me. But Kieran, Wolves have turned a profit of 14 million. Is profit whatever you want it to be?
To a certain extent, you've hit the nail on the head there, Matt. I mean, we've been through, clearly a crazy couple of years with regards to the pandemic, and that had a significant impact because it shuttled some matches forwards into 2021. You've got your football season, and then you've got your financial year, and because we had the lockdown in March 2020, it meant that there were 6 league matches not played that season, and that reduced Wolves' income, which wasn't good news. But that in turn shuttled those matches forwards in terms of TV money into the 2021 season. So that's why the numbers are looking perhaps a bit more healthy than people would have anticipated, because clearly we had that season behind closed doors. Wolves lost all of their match day income from the season, but have still managed to show a positive result.
Yeah, because I mean, revenue was up 47% due to more matches. Because I believe last financial year they made losses of over 30 million. With those profits of 14 million, fans will probably be asking, well, does that mean that they're going to go and spend big in the summer? That's it. That's the only question that ever comes up. Do you believe that there could be a case for a big summer?
Unfortunately, I'm going to be bad Santa when it comes to this, Matt. And the reason for that is that if you take a look at what Wolves have done over the course of the past 2 to 3 years, they've actually spent a lot of money in the transfer market, but they've been buying players on credit. And the trouble is, if you buy things on credit, and we all know this from our personal lives. If you buy a load of stuff on your credit card, yes, you feel good, and then 2 or 3 months later, that bill comes in, and you go, oh, "I've got a bit of a problem here. I need to cut back a bit." So, as far as Wolves are concerned, they owe around about 110 million in outstanding instalments on transfers, and that is that's not a problem, but it's something that has to be dealt with, and you can't just go and spend money freely, because clearly you've got to go and pay for those old transfers first. So that will act as a bit of an anchor in respect of what the club can do, and also if you take a look at the wage bill at Wolves. I think the first season in the Premier League, they actually had one of the lowest wage bills in the Premier League that season, and they were absolutely fantastic, clearly on the pitch, and all of the ducks were in a row. Things were fantastic, but the wage bill increased by £35 million, and the average player, based on my estimates, and these are estimates, okay, don't take any of this as gospel. I reckon the average weekly wage for a player now is around about 65 grand a week, which puts Wolves into the top half. They've gone from having one of the lowest wage bills in the Premier League to now something which you would associate for a club that I think most fans are hoping are going to be, clearly top half, top 6, 7, 8, ideally top 4. So, in order to A, attract the players, and B, keep the players, you've got to pay the wages, and that's what Wolves did in 2021.
Yeah, with the average salary you said of around about 65 grand, is that including stuff like appearance bonuses, goal bonuses? That's all kind of in.
Yeah. They all you get in the accounts is the whole pot. The actual breakdown. So talking to people in the game and talking to agents, and so that they do say that things are highly incentivized, and that will have impacted the overall total.
Yeah,
and certainly if Wolves get into the Champions League this season, it will go up again, and rightly so, because they've delivered.
Yeah, and Fosun have written off 126 million pounds owed to them. We've been told, well, when Fosun first came in, we were kind of sold the dream that we want to be Man City in the next 4 or 5 years, which I think most owners do, and they come in, and you know what, Fosun have got a bit of dough, but since then they've kind of changed tack. They want to be self-sustaining. Why would they write off 126 million pounds worth of debt? Do you think that they just see Wolves as almost like a portfolio item, like Abramovich did with Chelsea?
I think Fosun see Wolves in the same way as the bank of mum and dad operates. So, if my lad comes to me and says, "Dad, get in a car. Bank loans are expensive, Dad. Any chance of some help?" And I go, yeah, okay, mate. And I give him a few grand. I know I'm never going to see that money again. Now, nominally, he said, "Yeah, I'll pay you back one day when I've." And I go, "Well, yeah, but with the costs of being young these days being so high, you're never going to get it back." And you do it out of affection and love for your kid. And I think this is effectively Fosun saying, we have funded the club substantially historically. Wolves will never be in a position to be able to repay those loans. So let's just be honest about it.
Yeah.
Let's just write the whole thing off. And that's what they've done. If they sell the club, Wolves are worth the value of the stadium, the value of the squad, the value of the fan support, and that won't change. Yeah. So even if they did decide to sell Wolves at some point, they're still going to get the same amount of money as before. So whether that's in the form of loans or whether that's in the form of shares, it actually makes no difference. So this is sort of a technical issue as much as anything else. It's nothing to cheer, but it's nothing to worry about either.
Yeah, so they're not quite doing it out of the generosity of their own heart, but
well, I think the generosity originally came from lending the money in the first place and giving Wolverhampton Wanderers the resources to A, get to the Premier League, and B, to become very quickly an established club in the league, where we've seen quite a few clubs display second season syndrome. And initially they start off with a bang, and then it becomes a bit more of a struggle, a bit more of a grind, and Wolves have pushed on. And I think Fosun's contribution to that should be noted.
And it's noted here that the highest paid director has had a pay cut down to a modest £400,000. Is that something that you've seen? It wouldn't be too bad, would it? Is that something that you see kind of across the board, or especially pre-pandemic?
Yeah, post-pandemic, we are seeing quite a few directors take pay cuts, and football's a unique industry in the sense that it's probably one of the very few industries where people on the shop floor are earning more than people in the boardroom. And I'm as a working class lad, I'm all in favour of that. I go to matches to see the lads on the shop floor, many of whom are from solid working class backgrounds, and I quite like the idea that they earn more than the suits, and also the suits are going to be earning money into their 50s and 60s. Players got a short career.
It's very true. It's also noted that Wolves have borrowed £60 million from, I think it's the Aussie bank. Is it Macquarie?
Macquarie, that's right.
Paying interest of upwards of 7%. Is that something you see quite regularly? And also, why would they do that? Is it cash flow? Is it new future transfers?
Yeah, it's all to do with cash, Matt. Macquarie are sort of one of the most high-profile lenders to the football industry, and the reason for that is high street banks don't like lending to football clubs because if things go wrong and you're the local bank manager, you've got all the fans lobbing bricks through your window. because they blame you for the demise of the football club. So it's not good from a traditional bank's point of view to lend to football clubs. We've seen Macquarie and there's a couple of other niche banks sort of lend money, and the way that they do this is that they say, we know you're going to get Premier League TV money, parachute payments, if the worst happens for the next 2 to 3 years. We're a bit like a payday loan company. When we'll give you the money now, and when you get those monies from the Premier League or from some transfers, that money goes to us. So that's the way it works.
Okay, just a couple more questions, Kieran, if you don't mind. Just more so on future spending. With these accounts being published, where does that kind of hold Wolves in terms of being able to spend potentially big in the summer with FFP? What does the future look rosy?
Well, certainly from a Premier League FFP point of view, it's pretty solid because you're allowed to lose up to £105 million over 3 years. In respect of Wolves, they've also, of course, been competing or aiming to compete within Europe. Now, under UEFA rules, you're only allowed to lose €30 million, and Wolves were sanctioned by UEFA a year or so ago. So I think they have to be careful. They've made some profits on player sales, which have helped. It could be sort of a bit of a one out, one in scenario. Mbappe coming to Molineux. I think those rumours need to stop now. If truth be told,
it's like Haaland though. If he fancies it,
yeah. Okay, yeah. It's good to come off the bench, isn't he?
He'd hopefully do a job. So with that in mind with UEFA, is it that they can only make losses of a certain amount because Fosun have almost called their investment in the club?
No. It's simply that UEFA's maximum loss limit's a lot lower than that of the Premier League, so it's unaffected by the activities of Fosun. Wolves did spend big to get to the Premier League, and that's understandable. It's a tough gig to achieve.
Yeah, and I think, when Fosun first came in, they couldn't put a foot wrong, and I think because they invested so heavily in the first kind of window back in the Premier League, and now have almost kind of retracted that investment, they started to kind of split opinions with the fan base. Some were like, well, they've invested loads before, why can't they continue? And some fans, most of the older generation, should be grateful for what you're given. Just a final question, Kieran. So because they've written off this debt of upwards of £126 million, I know you won't be able to say a definite on this, but do you feel that because they've written that debt off, then there's probably not going to be a load more investment to come purely because they've written that off?
I think from their pronouncements that they want the club to be sustainable, and also if you take a look at the comments which have come from the Chinese Communist Party with regards to investment in European football, I think that the initial enthusiasm they had 6 or 7 years ago has waned, and that has meant that many individual companies and Chinese investors are trying to show greater modesty in terms of spending.
Kieran, absolute pleasure today. Thank you for joining me. It's been fantastic. Where can people find you on the podcast should they wish to listen to? Because I always talk about it, but I think they need to hear it from the horse's mouth.
It's The Price of Football. I do it with comedian Kevin Day, who's an absolute superstar. It's great to work with somebody that's done so much professional presenting work. I'm just a teacher, and I'm Kieran Maguire, or Price of Football on Twitter, and I'm obsessive. I bore people rigid with numbers, but some people seem to like it.
As you always say, you're just a modest accountant. But honestly, guys, it's a fantastic podcast. And like I said, thanks to Kieran for his time today. Hope you found some value in this, and it's for dummies like me, it's definitely made things a lot more clearer. So thanks, Kieran.
Well, thanks for the invite, Matt. Cheers, mate.